Yeah, so this game is fucking great. It has the worst burger known to man, Leon saying the fuck word, cool PS1 tier PC interfaces, Ada Wong, and confirmation that Lily is indeed the biggest goon and probably listens to Nickelback. It's rock solid all the way pretty much, and I say that entirely based on its own merits, as aside from a wee dick around the police station during my teens for a cheeky Let's Play series, I never actually played the OG. I can't really compare it to it, nor do I particularly want to either. I love the modern Resident Evils, you see, 4, 5, 6. And this seemed like more of a stripped back high-tension cinematic evolution of that which it was, so I got what I wanted. Still, if I was in the mood for some artistically rendered pre-renders, creepy lo-fi string swells, and pure hokey, addictive, simple, puzzle-heavy zombie action with amazing acting, I would play the original. The remake has not replaced it. They both offer something unique, and given the direction that Capcom took here, I must say that that's deliberate. Same goes for the Final Fantasy VII one, where Nomura said as much in interviews. None of that is stopping dudes from preemptively making videos like, oh, I'm concerned about the remake, they're gonna fuck it up because insert reason for it deviating, despite that being the point. What bothers me about this, however, is that I think that it's due to this mindset that we've been seeing more and more remakes opting for a one-to-one approach. Ratchet, Crash, or Spyro don't really offer anything new, aside from the odd tweak or visual, and instead rehash the exact same levels, events, animations, enemies, controls, mostly, and music. And all I can really say about these is, why? Why do people want this? Like, here's the thing, right? I cover a lot of older games. I'm not a retro channel per se, as I ain't nearly angry enough and would never stoop to using metal music for my theme songs, but it happens, and when it does, I will often see the same exact template comment. Oh, I really love this game. I remember playing it when personal anecdote. This really deserves a remake. And I mean, what's the logic here? Cause all I see is, I love this game, which is fair, followed by, I wish to relive my memories and feelings attached to it, which is also a perfectly normal thing to want, only to then skip the, I'm going to buy / download / emulate it now, and go straight to remake. Not even like new game in the series. Just straight up the same game, but slightly different in ways that you may not end up even liking all that much at all. A remake is taking the original concept and reinterpreting it, making something new and fresh from those ideas built from the ground up. And RE2 does this very well. It's only the same scenario, as it were. I.e., the rookie cop and girl looking for her bro team up and slip up because rogue truck, and so they shelter and loot a police station, but then also zombies and X-Men. That's where it ends. Shit don't even start in the same place. The entire police station's layout is different, there's loads more story and cutscenes, the combat is obviously entirely its own thing, and it has the gunpowder systems from RE3, and there's also some new puzzles, mechanics, locations, and characters, and the reused events will happen entirely out of sequence, and it's also paced stupendously, horrendously, incredibly more better. It does manage to keep some of the original's qualities, like the rush of saving, knowing that you need to track halfway across the station just to open up a single room, realizing that at any point the tyrant can pop, or that new Zams could have crawled through the windows, or... Worst of all, fucking liquor will have worked its way into a hallway you are like a billion times more intimidating now. Only negotiating you through a tense dance of ballet at gunpoint, where even the smallest of missteps can get you brupped in the face. It's a level of fear so dense even the tyrant couldn't.
Excuse us, and X, take us away.
And then making it back to a safe room with some spoils, items to store, and losses to tally. It is quite strong. Though, considering that most Resident Evil games are like this, and that they designed it with its own layout mostly, it is still its own strength just as much. Not to mention that the atmosphere is nothing like the original. Things were more foreboding there, if anything, utilizing creepy orchestral swells and somewhat uncanny vibes given how well lit recently lived in, yet eerily empty the entire place was. And now shit's in full-on Darko mode and largely silent, with nothing but the binaural audio to accompany the puzzling. Shit's fucked up, man. As I said, it doesn't replace the original game at all, nor is it meant to. It is a way for you to experience similar ideas in a completely different light. So then, I find it pretty fucking disheartening when I see people say that, say, the Spyro or Ratchet remakes are now the definitive ways to play these games. Or that the OGs simply haven't aged well, which is a woefully loaded and ignorantly undercooked comment when you don't boss it up with any examples. As per the video's title, all it really makes me do is question what people end up wanting from these. I mean, if you look at the original Spyro, you'll see a very clean image using tons of pastels. It's kinda muted, but in a way where the important things like the enemies and gems will use more primary colors, thus popping off the screen even from a great distance. Compare that to the very detailed, tinted lighting-heavy version of the remake that doesn't use pastels, opting for vibrant colors for everything, and you get a far more cluttered and busy image that neglects the original's design intent as well as just altering the cool, free breezy vibes favoring a warmer, more sunsetty experience. Now, I'm not saying that one is inherently better than the other or anything, but already just on the visual upgrade front alone, things deviate in such a way that if I was in the mood for this, I would not even think of playing this. Or vice versa. Again though, it's like, even if a remake is trying to be as one-to-one as possible, there will still be creative choices and technical alterations made along the way that will fail to convey what was originally intended, while in its one-to-oneness also not fully reinterpreting shit RE2 style either. Therefore, a remake like this, to me, feels fully pointless. Sure, it's still fun to play, and there'll often be a few tiny tweaks or iterations too, like how in Spyro 3 they tweaked some of the minigames that sucked initially, but going by the reaction at large, there isn't anything even close to a consensus on whether or not these versions actually work any better, so I really don't see any reason to get excited over something like this, as it's not offering much that the original doesn't, or does in ways that might not be true to it, which will stick out given the one-to-one nature of it all. I am excited for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I wasn't among the people asking for one, because much like Spyro, I just didn't really see the point, but having since seen bits of footage, I can already tell how different of an experience it's going to be. And sure, I can understand just wanting to revisit the game, but like, it's right there on Steam, your phone even, PS4, PS3, the Switch, or for free using emulators, so you can, and by all means you should. Because while the writing is kinda hokey, there's a better translation patch out there if that's what you want, and the gameplay is still solid, slow though it be, especially because turn-based combat hasn't really evolved much since then, other than it giving you a speed up button, which the modern re-releases and emulators already offer. Maybe you don't like the hoof hands, as they indeed do look kinda goofy, but if you actually have an open mind and accept it, then you might begin to see how expressively animated they are, and how much emotion they are still able to convey. It's really not bad. I guess you could say that it hasn't aged well, but I don't really buy that shit. The game hasn't changed. The context around it just has, and that's wholly subjective and up to you. So if Final Fantasy VII sucks to you today, then it's really you doing all of the sucking if you think about it. To me though, the remake will just be another opportunity to explore this creative and beautifully realized world, just as all of the sequels and prequels were about a year ago. I don't care about what else they're gonna do, cause if it is going to be super faithful, then the sucking will continue uninterrupted on your end anyway, so why not just let them take it in their own direction and see where we end up once it arrives. In any case, what I think is actually at fault here regarding the burning lust for remakes is the original RE remake. Cause see, that game took a very good game and turned it into an amazing, flawless masterpiece. Both still offering their own jams for sure. The remake doesn't echo the eerie uncanniness as it simply replaced it with a classic gothic horror atmosphere, but for all intents and purposes, it is easily the better game. And so, I think that that's what people end up pining for. They want that fire to strike again. They want to see a clever as fuck concept with more potential than what was originally explored to its fullest with modern technology. And I do absolutely get that. But that's provided that a lot could be added without taking too much away in the first place. FF7? Sure, realize that cinematic quality. Make the combat as flashy as it looked in your head. Give me that HD slap fight. But in the case of Spyro, I don't think you can really pull that off in the same way. There's a reason why they started including said shitty minigames by the third one, which is that they had already done everything with the simple scenario that they had. You know, the full potential was already reached. And I would say that this goes for most games, or at least the ones that people want remade. They're called classics for a reason, man. They were good. Not just for their time either. So like, leave Silent Hill out of this, you dumb motherfuckers. Now would be a good time to bring up remasters. These are great for like PS2 games and shit, because old aspect ratios and resolution sucked buttfuck. Just boop up the resolution, maybe make the frame rate a bit smoother, and continue to deny backwards compatibility as the history of this art form slowly crumbles under vile, unchecked capitalism. Yay. I do feel that maybe the core of my issue here is people just conflating the two a bit, but then can you really blame them when you see the Crash Bandicoot ones having the fucking audacity to call themselves remasters? Because fuck me, I guess. Like, they literally aren't either. The term remaster came from music, where it implied that you took the OG sound files and recordings and mastered them again, i.e. tweaking the decibel levels and compression and shit to make it not sound like it was recorded on a fucking shoe. And it applies in the same way to video games, taking the existing recordings, in this case the assets, textures, models, and scale them up so they look less crusty. A Crash Bandicoot remaster would have looked like this. Okay, maybe not those edges, but you get the point. It would have rejiggered the render distance and culling, maybe patched up the save system, but it wouldn't have been made from the ground up, and it certainly wouldn't have bunged up the controls, making the game much harder in the process. And while I don't dislike the insane thrill, it is clear to me that it didn't preserve the original games as they were. It doesn't let you relive shit either, as aesthetically it takes a lot of liberties. And going by the reviews surrounding it and its newly found difficulty, it didn't do much to introduce new people either. So once again, I ask you, so you could ask yourself, why do you even want this? Why egg them on to do a Crash Team Racing remake, a game wholly dependent on its exact pixel-perfect handling? If they change even so much as a single parameter or minor visual, thus altering the sense of speed even slightly, it could end up falling short, making for nothing but a decent kart racer and not the masterpiece of game feel, accessibility, and skill ceilings that it was. Not saying that it can't be good either, mind you, but going by the footage that we've seen so far, that won't be because they reinterpreted it from the ground up to be something new and fresh, like what the Resident Evil remakes are, but simply because it'll play exactly like the original, and like, at that point, what's even the point? And fucking miss me with that, well, if I buy this shit, it'll show Activision that there's a market for a new Crash game bullshit, because it's fucking not, okay? It's only showing Activision that they can monetize and abuse nostalgia. Companies are never your friends, least of all Activision, so don't get suckered into being their focus tester, because the only one who should be getting paid in that case is you. But, yeah, in closing, to me, it would make more sense to just want new games. Like, yeah, RE2 Remake was great, but as stated, it deviates in so many ways and offers so many unique qualities of its own that they easily could have made a game with its own scenario and it likely would have been just as great. Case in point, RE7. Hell, if anything, the comparisons to such a classic game might hold it back in the long run once a more cynical retrospect starts setting in. Claire and Leon barely interacted. Why would they care about each other? Or, I saw insert plot twist coming from miles away and yet they still built up to it like it was new. Or, I don't like the gunplay. It's not like how it was. Zombies take far too many hits now. And yes, I will ignore the fact that this was entirely balanced around this. It's not what I wanted! And so on. Same with the Crash remakes. Nobody would have complained about a heavier jumping arc if it was its own game with its own levels built for it from the ground up. So, please, random comment guy, when you watch my review of a game that you love and end up feeling nostalgic, say, wow, this game is so great, it really deserves a sequel. I would love to see character/mechanic return, instead of asking for a remake. Especially when this does actually concern Silent Hill. Like, no. Also, Capcom, just leave RE3 alone. I get that it was very flawed and can be improved on relatively easily compared to 2, but this just feels like a one-way backtrack to backtracking the entire series. So please, stop it. Get some help.